expands out from there. So I think my suggestion would be, more engagement with your government rather than less.
Yes, I'll give you a very specific answer instead of very number one use case what ICO companies want is whether the token is a utility token or security token. And if it's security token, then usually you're fucked because all the regulations take. So if Belarus now will do, as you have the sandbox, then the law protects investor, i.e. those who actually buy those tokens. If those people are coming from the EU countries, then their nations are responsible to protect their citizens. So you can change whatever law you want, but if the token is a security token, not utility token, then other nation states protect their citizens for their investors, and it doesn't matter if your law says that it's utility token, if it's actually, let's say Germany says that it's security token, hence you need to do all the KYCs, you need to have prospectus, the same way as IPOs basically. And in that sense it's complicated, and that's why the harmonization and discussion needs to take place that in the EU your kind of things would match with other nation states. Otherwise you're fooling your citizens and your investors because you say that let's do ICO here and eventually other nations will come and put you down because your regulation doesn't matter in the international context. And that's the complication part of the banking and all this protection on the IPO rights. It's very international regulation set.
Thank you. Tim, did you want to jump in before we get to the next question?
Yeah, I was just going to jump in there and say one of the challenges at the moment is that we've got the interplay of at least four different approaches to regulation. We have the UK's methodology, which is to say cryptos are risky, be it on your own head, we're going to watch and wait. We have the US, who tend to be transnational in their approach to enforcement of regulations. We have the Chinese approach, which is not not looking to protect its citizens, but to protect the state, and therefore have just banned the ICO community from existence. And then we have the sort of Gibraltar Estonia model, which is to try and come up with a sensible form of light touch regulation to encourage a business-friendly fintech community. And I think whilst this is working its way out, and we try and find a new approach, a new global approach to the creation and enforcement of regulations, the point I would make is that as an industry, we have a responsibility to self-regulate as best we can if we wish to avoid the creation of bad regulation, which is what will come if we don't.
Thank you. Okay, so we're going to go to our next question.
Just quickly, the question is for the e-residency program. The e-residency program, how much of it is really integrated to the...
Can you please louder a bit? I can't hear.
The e-residency program, and the question is how much there's an integration between the e-residency program you talked about with the real Estonian government, and if it is integrated, are the banks and the government entities are prepared, being trained? Are they planning to scale if this evolution that you talked about is about to happen?
Yes, sir. E-residency is a government program. I work for government, and government launched this digital citizenship. So yeah, it's the same thing. We kind of invented a new kind of how to say, new kind of look how we see people. So far, there are citizens who we know who are residents who actually live there, and then there are like strangers. All non-residents are strangers for you. And this kind of new kind of set of people that instead of strangers, let's call them clients or digital citizens or whoever want to subscribe to you, who are part of you without being citizen or resident. And this is what I believe at least that this group will be the most important groups in coming years.
Thank you, and you guys will be around also for further questions on the rest of the cruise. Oh, sorry, you came down here?
Hi, my name is Raj, founder of Trade Finance Market. Charles Goodhart, who was an advisor to the Bank of England, famously came out with Goodhart's law, and I paraphrase, the more you try and control something, the more it goes out of control. So, do you think that when governments try to control cryptocurrencies and blockchain, we're going to see a reaction from the community that basically says we don't want to be controlled and we're going to go somewhere to an environment and a jurisdiction which actually enables us to do the things that we really want to do.
We're already seeing that. I think one of the number one questions I get asked is where should I create the entity for issuing tokens? And it seems to be one of the areas of most interest in finding the most ICO-friendly jurisdiction. But you're absolutely right. More individual governments on their own try and enforce regulations to clamp down on the crypto world, the more we're just going to see them going elsewhere. The only way it's ever going to work is if sufficient number of major jurisdictions get together and act all as one.
Anyone else want to chime in on that?
Just to make this slide here more interesting, because I talked to like 10, 20 people, 15, 20 people so far, and most of them have been spoken today are also against regulations. And yeah, that really confuses and like annoys me, to be honest. Like let's take the fintech. Let's say that you can, without regulations, you could pay our former prime minister to make laws for you, and no one would understand that. Like, this is what happens when you don't have regulations. We don't want this to happen. The world will be like terrible like that. Imagine if you can't imagine that very, very close person to you will be killed by terrorism because it wasn't regulated transactions, who was financed to terrorism. And this is the life which normal citizens can't see every day, but what those bad government officials need to do every day to find those regulations, to protect those people. So there are reasons why some regulations are there, and of course this disrupts the whole industry, who are good guys, who actually want to raise good money, want to do good company, and want to exchange money. Like here, if I want to give you €5, I don't want that money to go through international banking system, I just want to give you €5. And of course this needs to take place. And then what we need to do is try to help governments to make those good laws, like how to make it happen, like whether we would have limits if you do €5 transaction or something, because government officials don't have the know-how, technology, the power, or any understanding about that industry or market. So instead of trying to like disrupt governments that they don't exist, which I don't believe that you manage to do, let's try to help governments. This is what I'm doing personally also, to transform them something new which would actually help other people also at the same time.
Okay, we're going to take a couple more questions. So,
hello, my name is Anton Sim. I'm from Kazakhstan, one of the investors in mining company.
Can you louder?
Louder, sorry. And I'm a crypto consultant. So the question is, let's suppose in a couple of years we're going to face, the situation when most of the governments will issue their own cryptocurrencies. What do you guys think, how they're going to interact with each other? What's going to be the financial and governmental model? What's going to be the substitute to whatever USD like status right now? Is it going to be a Bitcoin or like a cryptocurrency basket? We're interested to hear your opinion on that.
okay, thank you. Did everybody hear the question? Yes. Okay, so who hasn't talked in a little while here? Okay, Sergey.
So, thank you for your question. My personal opinion is that even when government will issue their own cryptocurrencies, from now I think we will live in such times that it will not mean that the whole country will use only this cryptocurrency. Because I think we are moving to a new time of multi-currencies in the world, and it will be more than countries in the world. So everyone who has a big influence will be able to use his own cryptocurrency. So, and it will mean that it will be a new type of relationships between people and between an organization and government is just like a very big organization. So, and I think it will change the way we're understanding the economy as some specific relationships between people, and maybe it will make a new model of the state. So I think it's not a question maybe of those 5 years, because we still sometimes I see that people who work in government, they still thinking in laws which have been made 2,000 years ago, or 3,000 years ago, because it is the very fundamental issues. But now I think today, when I was preparing to this panel discussion, I asked myself, okay, for example, if for 2,000 years ago, maybe in some Roman Empire, they had a blockchain, what kind of regulation would like they make? Is it the really best way we are regulating our economy or our relationships with economical issues? Maybe it is time to rethink and to find a new model of what we are really doing, what do we really mean with these cryptocurrency issues, and then maybe we will find a new models which is better than the only model we have right now.
Thank you. Dr. Gomez or Anne, Tavi, we haven't heard from you guys yet. Comment or next question? Any response to those? Or?
Well, not particularly on the last one, but I think on the previously made comments, I just want to add that it is quite obvious that as the world is becoming more global, the governments will need to compete with each other in terms of attractiveness of the regulating environment. Kaspar showed a slide before that there is around 1 billion nomads already in Hue who are not necessarily linked to one particular country physically. And this means that they need some sort of services, and service might be taxation, service might be healthcare, it might be many things. They might need those services from different countries, and they might not be stuck with one particular territory. So that means that they will turn to countries that are best. Not necessarily the biggest, not necessarily the strongest, but the best. And a friend of mine who is behind building a company called TransferWise, helps you transfer from one currency to another much faster and much cheaper than the conventional banks do. He has a saying that the future is about the fast eating the slow rather than the big eating the small. And this is something that all governments need to understand. Otherwise, the wealth of their governments or the wealth of their nations will be much less than some of those who will be fast and understanding the technological progress.
Thank you. Okay. Oh, yes?
I'd like to complement something. In some way, everyone has the reason, but Bitcoin is revolutionary. It's something new. It's so many activities. The government tried to regulate some, but some is more difficult to regulate. We have opportunity here with different countries, as the Prime Minister mentioned, be attractive. Attracting some place, maybe attracting the Belarusian to mining in Venezuela because the electricity is $0.0 and the worker is $4 per month. Maybe he pay 100 and my worker is happy. We have competitors. We have opportunities. I guess the Bitcoin, such mentioned my friend, maybe Haiti, maybe Africa, maybe Venezuela, have no borders. It's necessary the law, so you mentioned, but a balance between law and excessive law.
Thank you. Okay, so we've got a bunch more questions. Okay, so we're going to take a couple more questions and lift up our energy. And just if you don't get your question answered, like we're kind of held captive on the cruise, so take a super good look at everybody up there if you don't get your question answered. And they're all going to be around, especially tomorrow, which I'm going to tell you a bit more about in a couple minutes. So I'm going to try to remember who is next. So here you go. And you can be quick.
Very good. Hello, my name is Hugo, and I have a question for Mr. Gomez. currently, I believe that in Venezuela, miners are being put in jail, and Bitcoin is completely illegal. So could you please clarify how Petros is different?
Well,
Do you want to clarify what he's asking about for those who don't know what Petros is?
It's my personal point of view. Obviously, the miner was for have some take and the government make pressure. But you understand, in a country with the inflation is 2,000 per year, when the official rate is $10, and do you have a black market in 200,000? Bitcoin was an auction. For that reason, in some way, is management well, so management bad. Yesterday, Ducato's friend mentioned me, sometimes we try to make things very complex, but the realistic is you need to make things simple. What is the simple? In Venezuela, we have our oil. We have support a coin or activities with the coin, with the oil. It's trade. It's simple trade. It's 2,000 years. You mentioned the Romans. It's nothing new. In the petrol, it's in Pampers. I mentioned to the people of Plumber is here. Still have so many questions, but in person I can advise you some more points.
My question was, are you going to change the thing? Are you going to stop putting the miners to jail?
Well, I think
it's already the government change for the necessity.
the question
register.
Sorry, the question for everyone is the Venezuela, and I don't know if you can answer this on behalf of the Venezuelan government, but yourself, is Venezuela going to keep putting Bitcoin miners in jail? That's your question, and then we're going to answer that. And
yes, I guess the government changed the opinion and now make a register and try to open.
So yes or no?
Well,
Yes, in my personal opinion, yes.
yes, in his personal opinion, he's not the head of Venezuela, the country, but in his opinion, the answer is yes. Okay.
Gracias.
I've got a couple more quick questions. I'm going to ask my friend Jorg, who's very eloquent, to be quick for those of you who know and love Jorg.
So hello, my name is Jörg. For those who don't know me, I'm a speaker here also, and I'm one of the founders of Bitcoin. And even if it comes to regulations, and I mean, when we started to build Bitcoin in 2008, we didn't care about regulations and everything. What we see now is that they're going for our own cryptocurrency, building a shapeshift for telling people what is good in cryptocurrency and don't know about cryptocurrency at all. So it's funny to see how we see that Bitcoin is staying alive until you go for making financial advisors and everything, talking to people about own cryptocurrencies like the petrol. Because it's a silly thing. Because what would you like to shapeshift if people want to use their money on their own behaves? Someone like me is talking all over the world since 3 years, and we increased Bitcoin price to 70,000 one day by traders, and we have a real market cap of Bitcoin from 8,000 by people, for example, in Argentina and Venezuela, buying goods for Bitcoins. They do it because they have the hyperinflation of 7,000%. They have hyperinflation about 5,000%. So what we have there is charity programs running on Bitcoins underneath the government. And the people starting. When I was talking to the government of Japan, and I worked for 3 years there to become them into Bitcoin. So this is the same thing started at your countries now. You are blind to see that the people starting to move over for Bitcoin and talking about their own coins no one wants to have. So how will we regulate your peoples by using a system computer-based when they have an alternative? Thank you.
Yes. I mean, we are. Okay. I really find it strange to talk about regulations when it comes to blockchain and cryptocurrencies. I mean, Bitcoin was invented to have no regulations. you know, no state control, unbanked bank, no control. So you think cryptocurrencies are used to finance terrorists? You said something, and I think you said something about good regulations.
Just one thing is that
really
as we are living in nation states, then there are no things as no regulations. You're a citizen of nation, hence everything goes to under some regulation. What was the point before is that to which regulation it goes to. And the good thing is that regulation can say that it doesn't go to any regulation, and then it's good regulation, right? But if it doesn't say that, if it goes to regulation or not, then kind of it's up there in the air and no one knows how to take that. But as long as there are nation states, whether we like it or not, you are part of some regulatory environment. Hence, everything goes under regulations. But what is important for people to know is how it's regulated then, or to what regulations implies to that. And countries can say that, hey, Bitcoin in our country is not regulated, meaning it doesn't go to the utility token, security token, any regulations. And this is also regulation, just to say that out in written form, that it doesn't go to regulation. And that really helps people to get that clearance out of that.
I think you are undermining the idea of blockchain technology. I mean, this technology has been invented to be not regulated, and the technology will prove that it's not, that you cannot regulate it. Bitcoin is for everyone, and everyone should use it as it was intended from Satoshi Nakamoto.
Thank you for standing up and sharing that view as well. Obviously, you know, it's a super complicated topic, and I think it's one that, you know, like I was saying, you sometimes you get split on it. If you're like involved in some sort of industry, then you want to enable the growth, and for investors often to invest, they want some sort of regulatory environment. You want some maybe protection for like my grandmother, who I don't want her buying into the next scam coin ICO. And at the same time, I think many people in the room are nodding as you're talking about not wanting regulation. We're going to have one more question, and then please stay in the room because, okay, maybe we'll see what the time is, because I want to tell you about what's happening tomorrow as well. So, and if you can be quick.
Podesichuk Andrei, Embassy of Bitcoin. I have two questions. First question, it's what's happening the last of Everton dictator Lukashenko? And second, maybe Belarus, it's an example for other countries.
So, sorry, just first question, I don't really catch.
First question, what's happening with dictator Lukashenko? Now it's another position on the world about blockchain, about economic growth. You understand me?
Not really, but I tried to say something. I can tell you what I think about it. So, okay, I think that it is, not, for me personally, it's not a good story when some maybe president of any country, we can say different things about them, but still, I think that you personally are not polite to me personally here because I'm from Belarus, and maybe our president is has some pluses and minuses, as everyone in the world. But still, I think that we can find many problems with elections and with governance in any country. But still, the main thing that happened in Belarus is that the laws which was supported by presidents, they were written by IT and crypto society in Belarus. So it was a proposal. So in February 2017, the IT community they decided that we need a new law, a new regulation, not of the blockchain personally, but of product companies, because our law system in Belarus gave an opportunity for outsourcing model, for service model in IT, but we had a huge problems with product development. So it was like you making R&D center in Belarus and make a product company somewhere else. And it was ridiculous. We want to make our companies in our country, not in Estonia, with all polite to Estonia, but we want to do it in our own country. And then IT society decided to go to the government and say, okay, we want a new regulation that will help the country. And they had a green light, okay, write everything you want. They took a lawyer firm and lawyers, and they helped to, it was maybe 3 months of consultation inside the society, and they provided this law to government. Then government started to, president check it, government check it, and they started to discussing, and they decided somehow, I don't know what really happened with those people. It was, everyone in society was thinking, maybe we will have half of we asking, maybe we will have 10%, but they got all 100% they asked. So that, and it happened. Maybe it's because not only bad things happens, but good things happens as well. I don't know why this position of regulating changed. Maybe because we, as a country, we're rethinking our place in the world. But still it's happened, and that is why we have these new regulations, and we see a great opportunity for IT society as well in this story. So this is the answer, what was happening in the country, but I'm not sure I remember and hear quite well your second question. If I didn't answer it, you can just ask it once again.
Maybe you can type the second one to get up. I think we're wrapping up for questions. We have to wrap up the question, but you're welcome to talk afterwards. But thank you for the response. Super quick, you had something to add?
Yeah, well, I think just leaving the cryptocurrencies aside for 1 second when talking about blockchain, I think obviously it's so much more also to blockchain than currencies, and I think there is room where we all can agree that governments could use the blockchain technology as an enabler for their citizens. I'm referring to opportunities like officially recognizing blockchain-based identity as your legal document, or officially recognizing something that is digitally signed as officially functioning document in this particular country. And this is something I think where everybody could easily agree on that we could all benefit from. I see that there is obviously a bit different views on whether, I don't even think we have different views on what is the essential need for a cryptocurrency. I think we can all agree on that cryptocurrencies are not yet reached their full potential. There will be so much more about cryptocurrencies to come, but I think there is different views on whether it is realistic or possible to keep them fully unregulated. I think here we see different, perhaps, realities in a way, or different ways how we see actually this going. It doesn't necessarily mean that we have different views, but we see the future, perhaps the reality is different.
Well, I think that's a wonderful way to wrap up our panel. So panel, if you can stay put for just a minute. Before we give a generous round of applause to everyone for staying, let's do that. Give a round of applause for everyone. Thank you so much. I know a lot